And since we have yet to elect a chair and vice chair for this meeting, I will call the meeting to order. This is the January 12th, 2022 meeting of the Land Use Commission, the first official meeting. I will call the roll for attendance. Commissioner Aravalo, Commissioner Cullen.
Here, present.
Commissioner Halleck, Commissioner Hugo,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson,
Present.
Commissioner Linwall,
Present.
Commissioner Marinchev,
Here.
Commissioner Purcell,
I'm here.
Commissioner Rogers,
Here.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Present.
and Commissioner Zordan.
Present.
All right, we do have a quorum. Next item of business is a suspension of the rules to conduct this meeting remotely. Is there a,
I make a motion that we suspend the rules and conduct the meeting remotely.
I will second.
all right. We'll do this a roll call vote. Commissioner Cullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Marinchev,
Yes.
Commissioner Patel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
and Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
Right, that passes. All right, the first order of business is actually the election of officers and members of committees. Let's see if I can pull this up.
Okay. Are you looking for nominations of people at this point? How are we doing this?
Yeah, I will open the floor to nominations first for Land Use Commission Chair. I'm just going for it.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Matt Rogers.
I'd
I'm
like to
gonna
second that.
nomination. Okay.
Okay, that was Westerberg and seconded.
Lindwall made the motion, and I think I don't know who seconded.
Last time.
Okay, are there any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Mac Patel for vice chair of the Land Use Commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, I can take a roll call vote for both of these items or do them separately. Whichever is the feeling of the commission, since there is no.
Why don't we do them separately, Megan, to make sure that we have a legal vote?
Okay, sounds good. All right, I would do the roll call vote for nomination of Commissioner Rogers as chair of Land Use Commission. This is first. Commissioner Cullen,
I agree.
Commissioner Hugo,
Agree.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Marinchev,
Yes.
Commissioner Purcell,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
and Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. All right, next I would do the roll call vote for vice chair. That was Max Purcell. Commissioner Cullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Mudunchev,
Yes.
Commissioner Purcell,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
That also passes unanimously. All right, the next item for this agenda item is election of zoning committee members. So as we've done in Plan Commission previously, you can nominate yourself or nominate others and volunteer to be on the committee. And then we can affirm that once we get, we're looking for about 5 members for that, if you recall.
Well, I feel like I need to be on the zoning committee. I feel that's where I came from. That's where I need to be.
All right. So we got Commissioner Cullen. All right, 4 more.
Megan, excuse me. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know that Commissioner Westerberg has served on this committee with Plan Commission, so I don't know if she has an interest, but I think that she would be a valuable member of that committee as well.
Thank you, Chair Rogers. I am interested in the Comprehensive Plan Committee, but I guess it's a question of whether you want commissioners serving on 2 committees.
And since we would be looking at, I believe, 5 commissioners on each of these committees, there might be some overlap. And I know once we get further into discussion on the comprehensive plan, the comprehensive plan committee at this point is being looked at as the body that will do more with regards to the implementation. There will be some review of the document itself, but yeah, the comp plan committee as it is now, we're looking at that to be more in the implementation phase. I think we've got sorry, having some technical issues. And we've got Director Knighton on the call. She'll provide a little bit more detail regarding the comprehensive plan, but if that helps at all, I don't know if that helped. And Commissioner Purcell, you had a question?
I'd just like to volunteer to be on the zoning committee.
Okay.
I had to step away. I'm sorry, I missed the question about the comprehensive plan. I'm in the throes of bedtime at my house. So it's a little chaotic on the other side of the door right here. So I apologize for disruptions. So we've been working on the request for proposals for the comprehensive plan. We're nearly done. It's hopefully going to be issued in the next month, next couple weeks. And we'll solicit consultants to do the work in coordination heavily with the Land Use Commission, with members of the public. We have, I think, a really good and unique way of approaching our efforts to update our comprehensive plan, since we know we only seem to do one every 20 years. It's pretty important and we want to get it right. So there's going to be a lot of work, and statutorily that plan would come through this body for review. So I think there's sort of 2 pieces, and I don't know if Megan touched on this. There's one sort of effort to develop the plan, and the second effort is the implementation, which is just as important as the plan development, because we don't want a plan to just sit on the shelf. We really need to make sure we're monitoring the implementation of the strategies and the goals to meet the objectives that are laid out in the plan. So the Land Use Commission will be that body that will monitor some of that implementation, because this is the body that makes sure that the plan is meaningful, and particularly as it relates to the zoning code, which the hope is at some point down the road, we go to update the zoning code as well, based on what is in the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Commissioner Westerberg, I don't know if that offered a little bit more information for you.
It does a little bit. I appreciate Chair Rogers' vote on that, but I would prefer not to be on the zoning committee at this time.
So now we are at 2 people for the zoning committee. We would optimally like to have 5, so we need 3 more.
I'll go to the zoning committee if okay with everyone.
Okay.
I'll volunteer for zoning.
All right, we're at 4. There's 1 more volunteer. That would be great.
Chair Rogers, how about you?
I was just going to say, I'm more than happy to, but I wanted everybody else to get in if they wanted to before I put my name in on it. So I'm more than happy to serve on that. I currently serve as chair of that on Plan Commission before we dissolved. So I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay, so we have our 5. That's Commissioner Cullen, Commissioner Patel, Commissioner Wodenchev, Commissioner Jordan, and Commissioner Rogers. That's correct. Okay, I can call a roll if everyone agrees with this lineup, and we can affirm this and move on to comp committee. Right. Commissioner Cullen, Commissioner Cullen.
Can't really hear you.
Oh, we're doing the vote for the zoning committee members.
Okay, did you call my name?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes,
Commissioner Wodenchev,
Yes.
Commissioner Patel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes,
Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Now for the comp plan committee.
I'd like to be on the committee.
Commissioner Linwall, and I have Commissioner Westerberg, since you.
I will volunteer. Thank you.
Right, that is 2. If we can have 3 more, that would be great. No volunteers, and I think it would be okay to have some overlap here. These are 2 different items.
Well, Megan, since there's overlap, I'm going to volunteer for the Comprehensive Plan Committee only was my planning specialty when I was with the city of Chicago.
Got it. Thank you. Right, got 2 more spaces. You've got a few commissioners who are not a part of a committee yet.
Megan, I'll throw my name out for comp plan.
Commissioner Johnson.
Dig it up. Happy to do the same.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, so we've got Commissioner Westerberg, Commissioner Linwall, Commissioner Cullen, Commissioner Johnson, and Commissioner Hugo for the Comp Plan Committee. I am going to call the roll. Commissioner Cullen,
I agree.
Commissioner Hugo,
Agree?
Commissioner Johnson,
Agree.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodenchev,
Yes.
Commissioner Patel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes,
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes,
and Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
That carries.
could I make a suggestion, Ms. Jones, that we also reach out to our 2 commissioners who are absent this evening and see if they want to serve on one of these, and if so,
Yes.
we may reshuffle or something like that a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. That is a good idea. Okay, and last we have the steering committee. We will be looking to have a chair be nominated for this. I know as Director Knighton touched on, this would be one of the groups that is created in an effort to review and move the process for creating the comp plan forward. So the thought is the chair would be leading this effort and be made up of a number of representatives from the various boards, commissions, and committees.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Lindwall to be the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been motion and second. I will call the roll. Commissioner Cullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodenchev,
Yes.
Commissioner Patel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes,
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes,
Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. All right, the next item of business is adoption of Land Use Commission Administrative Rules and Procedures. Did forward the revisions to commissioners, so if there's any additional edits or discussion you'd like to have, now is the time. Or I would take a motion if everything looks okay.
I'll move approval.
I'll second approval.
All right. I will call the roll. Commissioner Cullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodenchev,
Yes.
Commissioner Patel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
yes,
Commissioner Westerberg,
yes,
and Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. All right, so now that we have rules, Commissioner Rogers, if you would like, I can hand the reins over to you, or we can keep going this way.
I'm fine stepping in at this point if you want. It's a little weird. I don't know, picking up in the middle of the meeting.
Yeah.
how to start off the meeting. But I'll go ahead and just keep with the agenda here with the adoption of the 2022 meeting calendar. So in our packet, we were given a list of dates for our twice monthly meetings. If everyone's had a chance to look at those, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 meeting calendar as presented.
I'll second.
So it has been moved by Colin, seconded by Lindwall.
Yes.
So if you would call the roll, please.
Commissioner Cullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Merenshev,
Yes.
Commissioner Patel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
So with how many people do we have here tonight? 9?
9.
With 9-0, the motion is approved, and that is our calendar for the 2022 year. I have a quick question for staff before we move on. I know that ZBA had a meeting recently for which minutes were not approved. Is there a process for approving those minutes at our next meeting so that those are officially ratified minutes and never and move beyond the draft phase?
We were not planning to present them to this body since not all members present here could technically vote. However, we do have Assistant City Attorney Brian George here if he would like to clarify if that's actually necessary or not. However, you're not wrong that they could indefinitely be draft.
Yeah, I think minutes should be approved. I understand that not all members of the current commission were members of the ZBA. So either, this is something that I'll do more research on and I'll get a full, better answer for you after the meeting. But I think I can envision a scenario where just the members present are able to vote for it and the others, the non-members abstain from voting.
Is there a scenario where you could have them approved outside of the body of a meeting? Could you email them to everybody that was included in that meeting and they could improve those?
I can look into that, but just my instinct is that doesn't sound right.
All right, I just wanted to bring that up so that if that needed to be taken care of, we can arrange for that at the next meeting and have the members of ZBA who were in attendance at that meeting approve those minutes, at least so they don't live in draft form for forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have those on the next meeting agenda then, and those that were present will be able to vote.
All right, thank you. With that, I guess I'll kind of modify the chair's opening statement to begin our meeting. So good evening and welcome to everyone. This is the January 12th, 2022 public hearing of the Land Use Commission. The City Code directs this body to hear applications for map and text amendments, special uses, including planned developments, zoning relief, and appeals from decisions of the zoning administrator, as well as to make recommendations regarding the city's long-term planning goals and objectives. Depending on the type of matter, this commission will either make a final determination or send its recommendation to City Council. No need to do the roll since we're already in attendance and that a quorum has already been declared. This is a formal hearing. There are rules that govern our proceedings. Most importantly, only one person speaks at a time, so all testimony may be accurately recorded. Anyone who wishes to address the commission regarding any matter on tonight's agenda will have the opportunity to do so at the appropriate time. Commissioners may ask questions at any time. Our procedure is to hear an introduction from staff on the documents on file, and then receive testimony and other evidence from the applicant or appellant. After that, persons who wish to make a statement regarding the matter will have a chance to do so. Any person with a legal interest in property located within the public notice distance of the subject property may present evidence, reasonably question witnesses, or seek a continuance of the hearing. When all supporting and opposing testimony and statements have been heard, the applicant or appellant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal or a closing statement. Then the commission will close the record and begin deliberations and consider the standards. The commission will make formal findings of fact based on the testimony and evidence presented and on the commissioner's knowledge of the community and recommendations of staff. All testimony is taken under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence, please limit your testimony to the proposal as it relates to the standards contained in the zoning ordinance and corresponding staff memorandum. When testifying, please state your name and address for the record. And we don't have a sign-in sheet, so just kind of maybe put your, if Ms. Jones or Ms. Ashball can sort of take note as to who is speaking, we'll have that record for them. Our meetings are audio and video recorded. Please make sure that you have your microphone on when asking questions or making statements so that you can be properly recorded. And all proceedings are subject to broadcast on the city's television station at a later date or its YouTube channel. Any matter not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting. We have just one item on the agenda tonight. The item B at 1946 Orrington Avenue has been withdrawn. And so I will let anybody know who showed up for that we will not be hearing that particular case this evening. At this point, I will ask that anybody who thinks they may be speaking to us on a matter this evening to please be sworn at this time by raising their right hand and turning on their microphone so we can hear everybody say that they do. I'll give you a moment to do that. At this point, for those who wish to speak, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings?
I do.
I do.
Thank you to everyone. So with that, we will move into the first case that we're hearing, the only case, which is 1224 Washington Street, 21 ZMJV 0100. The applicant is here. I believe I saw him earlier. Just confirming that you are here.
Yes, I am here.
All right, thank you. So Ms. Jones, would you like to read that into the record or do you want me to do it? We've never discussed how we're going to handle this. Or Ms. Ashball, I'm sorry, this is probably under your, dealing with two different people, it's a little different.
It is, no problem. Yes. All right, so the case before you, let me go to the correct agenda page. All right, James Tullio, the property owner, requests 2 zoning variations from the Evanston zoning ordinance to allow for the subdivision of one 9,226 square foot, 100-foot wide residential corner lot into 2 residential lots in the R3 2-family residential district. The applicant requests 1 major variation to allow the proposed interior lot to be 4,226 square feet, where a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet is required per section 6-8-4-4. The applicant also requests a minor variation to allow the proposed corner lot to have an impervious surface lot coverage of approximately 3,485 square feet or 69.7%, where the maximum permitted is 3,000 square feet or 60% per section 6-8-4-9. The subject property, 1224 Washington Street, is currently improved with 1 2-story building, a driveway, and a patio. The applicant is not proposing any site improvements to the property in association with these requests. The Land Use Commission is the determining body for this case, and the case number for the record is 21 ZMJV-0100.
Thank you, Ms. Ashball. With that, I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Tullio and ask him to explain his proposal to us and what zoning relief he is seeking.
Yeah, this is James Tullio, 1224 Washington, Evanston. So basically, I'm asking the board, in my case, to make an exception. I know that the lot that I wanted the variance for is not in compliant. But I think there are many lots in Evanston that are compliant. In fact, the house next door to me is basically the same size as the lot that I'm trying to get the variance for. So that's number one. Secondly, I think if I can get this variance, I think it's gonna afford a family a more affordable lot to build a house. As you know, land is very expensive in Evanston. So I think this will give someone a possibility of building a home and owning a lot in a more affordable way. And then thirdly, and most importantly in many ways, I have a nonprofit music production school. And I teach and work with high school age students, mostly from ETHS. And I've been doing that now. This program has been official for about 2 years, but I've been mentoring high school students for years, like decades now. And right now the building is in jeopardy, and it's because of, there's a number of reasons. The big one is COVID. You know, my workflow is basically stopped, but I've been able to continue the school classes, and we've had, the way I've operated the classes, I have 2 students at a time. And during the heavy COVID period, we were all masked up and everybody was safe and nobody got sick from taking classes here, and I've never gotten COVID. So, and then the other reason is my interest rate on my mortgage had quadrupled a few years ago. So I'm really close to losing the place. And if I do, I think the program would end. And I'm really trying hard to hold on to this. And I think it's a real community service, and I think it's an important thing. And I've done, in the last 2 years, I've done 64 tracks with high school students. And if you're not familiar with what that is, they're full songs. And they're songs or pieces of music that the students write themselves. And we do production from start to finish. And 64 tracks is 6 albums of material. And that's a lot of work in 2 years. And I've continued to stay on that schedule and will continue. So basically, I'm asking for this board to make an exception for this, to save this program and save this whole thing. There's a number of students online, and there's one here, and a number of other supporters, I think, willing to speak for me. And I also have a video, if I may show you, from Matt Bufus, who is the musical director at ETHS. He couldn't make it, but he wanted me to show a video, if you'll allow me to do that.
I can't allow the video if somebody who's a host could allow that.
Who is attending the meeting that you would like to share the video, Mr. Tullio?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, who
It's-
has the video, or?
It's
who-
Matt Bufus. He sent me a video to support this, but he couldn't be here tonight because he's with the Evanston Jazz Band playing in Lamont, I think, tonight. So he made a video because he wants to be involved and support this program.
Do you have the video that you can share? Are you able to share your
I do.
own screen, or you're allowed to give
I'd have to just put up my phone. I don't know if you can hear it.
You
though.
have the text on the laptop? Your text message?
You can send me
No, I have it on an email.
Okay, yeah, you can share your screen.
Oh, can I do that? I don't know
Yeah.
how to do that. So if
You
give
just-
me a second,
yeah.
I can open my email and I can share it if you like.
Yeah,
me how to do that.
absolutely.
As long as you, yeah, just find the email real fast. You could just search up Matt Bufus. Sure. Oh, it's right here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, pull up the video.
So download it.
Yeah, get that going. This will probably take too long, actually. Oh, download?
Maybe not.
No.
No, I don't think so. It's really quick.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah. So once that's, just pull that up and go back to the Zoom screen and just hit share screen at the bottom here. Here, if you.
So how I have to put that on my desktop?
Yeah. Double click that, open it up. There you go. And now just pull it. Yeah, there you go. Now go to share screen on Zoom. Open up the Zoom. Pull this tab up so you can see it. And share screen right there in the middle, big green button. Desktop. Yeah. Share. Yeah, opens this.
We got the beach ball.
Here we go. Just click record. No, you're not gonna wanna.
No.
No. Okay, it seems like it's not gonna, unless. Let's try now. Yeah. Here.
Here it is.
Good evening, board members. My name is Matt Bufus, and I'm Director of Bands at Evanston Township High School. I pre-recorded this video in support of Jim Tullio's application for a zoning variance to sell his empty lot adjacent to his Butcher Boy studio. Regrettably, I cannot be with you live this evening as our ETHS Jazz Ensemble has a gig in Lamont. Jim is
Jim, you muted yourself, so now we can't.
bigger help to the Evanston Township High School band program during the COVID-19 pandemic. Jim helped us out to record, master, and align several recording projects that our students completed during our remote and hybrid learning school year. These projects kept our students motivated, and the products themselves are most impressive. You should check them out on social media or YouTube when you get a chance. It takes a village to support our youth in Evanston, and Jim has proven to be a real asset to the student musicians in this community. I respectfully encourage you to approve his application so that he can continue to mentor our students for years to come. Thank you.
That's it.
Do you have anything else that you want to bring to the board tonight, Mr. Tullio?
Not really, sir. No.
Do any of the commissioners have questions of Mr. Tullio before I open it up for questions or for comments and questions from the public? I don't see any hands from commissioners. Oops, I do see a hand. Commissioner Lindwall.
Yes. You indicated in the application that your intent is to sell the second lot if it's created. Do you have a buyer in mind, or what is?
No, I thought I did. There was someone interested, but they're not interested at this point. They want a bigger lot. But you know, I know a number of realtors. I think we'd be able to do it. There's, as you know, there's very few lots in Evanston. Very few empty lots. So I think probably wouldn't be too difficult to sell.
Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Mirantovich, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name right now. Miranchev.
Thank you. I have a question to staff, if it's appropriate to ask it right now.
Yes.
On the second page, page 2 of 6, there are some suggestions by the zoning administrator. And I'm confused because it mentions that the newly created interior lot is zoning compliant and the corner is not. Is this something that was previously mentioned? And is it an option that the corner lot could be the non-compliant, and the interior becomes a newly created compliant lot.
I don't know if Ms. Ashbaugh, if you want to.
Oh, I had muted and unmuted myself. Sorry, Chair Rogers and Commissioner Miranchev. So I believe what she was referring to specifically, Zoning Administrator Melissa Klotz, was speaking to the compliance of the interior lot, meaning that it does not, other than the lot size itself, there are no other nonconformities that exist at present on the property because it is undeveloped. The existing improvements on the corner lot, the only relief needed for that property is the minor zoning variation for the impervious surface. So I believe that's the meaning of what she had put in the staff report. And then with regard to enlarging the interior lot to making that lot 5,000 square feet, that we did review that when the applicant came forward for a zoning analysis, but that would have required even more variations beyond the two that are before you currently, to allow that existing lot to remain as it is currently without any site improvements, because it would have gotten closer to building lot coverage. I think there would have been some other, there already are issues with the setbacks because the front and street side setbacks are non-conforming. So it would have kind of created more things that would have needed additional relief. This request, as it is right now, has the fewest number of zoning variations that would accomplish the intent of the applicant.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Fuchtel?
Yes, thank you. I have a question for the applicant. It looks like from the photos that there's an addition on the south end of the existing property. And can you explain maybe the history of that?
Yeah.
To help us understand. Normally, I wouldn't necessarily think it matters, but it seems in this point to affect the minor variance for the impervious surface coverage. So I'm curious about the context of that addition and its history.
Well, interestingly enough, when I bought the building, the city told me the back part of the building is not an addition. The brick part, the front part of the building is an addition. The back part of the building was a barn. And I was told by the city that that's the oldest building in Evanston. At one point, it was built in 1858. And at one point, they told me that was the only structure in Evanston was the barn. And then in the 1890s, sometime in the 1890s, they built the brick building. I think they actually cut the barn in half and built the brick building. And it became a butcher shop. And it was a butcher shop probably for over 50 years. And then, as you know, if you're older Evanston residents and been here a while, then it became a corner grocery store for another 50 years. And then I purchased it in 2006.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners at this time? If not, I'm going to open it up to members of the public who would like to address the board.
People have their hands raised.
I have a student here, if I may, if he could speak.
Just a moment. I'm seeing a couple hands come up.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Miranchev, are you still raising your hand from previous question, or are you asking for a new question?
No, it seems that it's a glitch.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so with that, I'll move on to members of the public, and I'm just going to call on you as I see your hands come up. So the first name I see is, and forgive me if I mispronounce it, Joby C.
Yes,
All right, if you would please state your name and address for the record.
sure. My name is Joby Cates. I live at 843 Judson Avenue in Evanston.
All right, Ms. Cates, and if you just please tell us your thoughts on the project.
I would be delighted. So in my professional life, I'm the executive director of a statewide advocacy organization called the Restore Justice Foundation. And I have been privileged really to get to know Jim Tullio and Butcher Boy Studios over the past 2 years through my son, Soren Dorr, who is an apprentice to Jim right now. Obviously, I have some self-interest here, so I'm going to disclose that first. What I'd like to say to you is I'm also professionally advising Mr. Tullio on the development of the nonprofit. And I think the very short but very important story I'd like to tell here is one of just terrible timing of COVID. So here's a Grammy award-winning, really exceptional teacher who has committed himself to this community, who opens the studio and who is using his work producing tracks as a business to fund his basic philanthropic and charitable effort of helping students get into this field and take their passion for music and take it to the next level. The entire model was dependent on people from around the country traveling to Chicago and to Evanston, staying with Jim for a few days and producing tracks and paying him to do that to sort of support. That was the model. And then literally within months of finishing the space and getting it beautiful and gorgeous and ready to go, COVID hits and no one's getting on airplanes and traveling to Evanston to record. In the meantime, Jim has really, he's at a point in his life where he's retiring. He's building a nonprofit that's going to be sustainable beyond him. He wants to build a gift to this community and he needs time to do it. I had somebody who's started numerous nonprofits and who's running one that I started years ago. Nobody starts a nonprofit and gets to full steam in 2 years or in 3 years. And the timing of the increase in expenses, not getting this variance, COVID hitting, really does jeopardize what is a phenomenal institution really for Evanston. The last thing I want to say, and probably something that you wouldn't experience unless you went there yourself, I was skeptical of Butcher Boy when my son first started spending a huge amount of time there. When I visited for the first time, I was overwhelmed by the love and care that Jim has put into this building. You really need to see it to believe it. You can feel the history. You can feel the passion for music and for teaching. He has lovingly restored an historic, beautiful building and is putting it to probably the most selfless and beautiful use possible. So I highly, highly encourage you to vote yes tonight to make an exception for this really phenomenal organization. There are so many people who are in Jim's corner and who will stand by him and help him make this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cates. Again, I'm just going to kind of go down the list here of hands raised. The next person I have is Taryn G. Okay.
Hey, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. I'll be quick. My name is Chris Jolin. I was Jim's assistant for probably a good 10 years or so. I am head of production and chief engineer for Lincoln Hall and Shuba's in Chicago. I just want to kind of express that the caliber at which Jim works at is just the highest that there is. And the opportunity that he's offering here does not really exist anywhere. It's truly, truly special. And as the last speaker just said, I mean, you really gotta go to his place to really understand how incredibly it's just mind-blowing there. And this opportunity for kids, you really want this to happen. You want this for the kids. This really is so incredibly special. I have seen all this stuff and Jim is it's above everything. It is so incredibly good. So I'll leave you with that, but this is really something you want in your community. There is no better person to do this. There's no better place to do this. And the circle that Jim just works in, of where he's been for the last 40 plus years, or, you know, whatever. I mean, Jim's friends are recording everything classic that you've ever heard of, and everyone classic that you've ever heard of. I've sat in his kitchen with the guy who recorded Imagine. It's crazy. Okay, so we've worked on Phil Collins. We worked on, it's just above anything you can imagine, and you want this for the children of your community. So that's all I'll say. Thank you very much for your time, and you guys, please let this happen.
Thank you. Next speaker I have is Ryan Theriel.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. So yes, my name is Ryan Theriel. I live at 1410 Wesley Avenue, Evanston. I'm a former ETHS high school student, and I was one of Jim's first students at the Butcher Boy program. I worked with Jim for about 10 months, and I've got to say that that program has really altered my path in life, and I think it's made me the person who I am today. I'm currently studying music in Boston, and I don't think that I'd be doing as well or have as much confidence as I do right now if I hadn't joined this program. Just simply, what I believe is that any decision that will hinder Jim's ability to run this program or afford this program is going to hurt Evanston's community more than help. I think that you should all vote yes, and that this program, I think you're going to see more and more that it has really impacted the community at large and will continue to do so. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jim Tullio, but it's not Jim Tullio. So if you please identify yourself and make your comments to the board.
Hi, I'm Thomas Hart. I'm a senior at ETHS currently, and I have been coming to Jim's studio now for over a year. And when I first walked in, we made a whole song together in a Grammy-winning producer's studio. And to me, it was like such an incredible experience. And the fact that he's giving this to all these kids that have joined this Zoom to speak for him is just like, it's such an incredible program. And the building itself is magnificent. Any decision that would take this building out of Jim's possession I feel like is the wrong one, because he's given me so much in studio time, in gear. He's given me gifts, and just, it's been really incredible. And this program is going to help probably like the whole next generation of musicians. It's in Evanston. It's incredible, truly. So that's all I have to say, really. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Neil Gambow.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and thanks very much for the opportunity to talk. My name is Neil Gambow. My address is 927 Michigan Avenue, Unit 2 in Evanston, 60202. You've heard a lot about Jim. I met Jim about 3 years ago because I am the chair of the Mayor's Employer Advisory Council. And this council is really dedicated to bringing career pathway opportunities to young people that are not necessarily going to college. When I ran into Jim, his program, you know, a lot of the kids that he is working with aren't the kids that are going to college. Some of them will, but some of them may not. But the work that he did is really creating opportunities for young people that just need that extra help. And in music, let's face it, ETHS is a great school, but they're a little bit limited in what they can do with music production. Two other quick things. I looked at that picture of the property, the aerial view that showed the home next door to it on a property size about the same size of the 4,200 square footer that Jim was trying to get segregated off. I thought that was an interesting photo. Number 13, there you go. And another item, and I think maybe many of you know this, ETHS builds a house, their geometry class builds a house every year. And it's a 1,500 square foot house, but it's 2 stories, and it sits on a footprint of 750 square feet, which is about 17% of that property as it gets rezoned. So I think it's plenty big enough for a home. And I agree with everybody, you know, housing is expensive as the dickens here in this town. And any way you can prevent or provide an opportunity for someone to get into this town, buy a small piece of property and put a house up, I think that's a great opportunity for the city. Thank you very much for my comments, and I do support Jim's request for the zoning change.
Thank you, Mr. Gambo. The next speaker I see is Martin Andrews.
Hi, I'm Beatrice Andrews. I live
Okay.
at 319 Asbury Avenue. I'm a freshman at ETHS. And I've been working with Butcher Boys since about May, but it's been one of the most amazing learning experiences of my life. Like, because of this nonprofit, I get to collaborate with incredible musicians my own age and also learn from professionals. I've recorded like 4 or 5 songs now, and I'm so lucky that this was my first experience recording my own music. And it's really taught me so much, and I'm so excited for everything that I'm going to be able to learn and create in the following year because of this nonprofit. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom T.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tom Thurile, and I live at 1410 Wesley Avenue. And you heard from my son, Ryan Thurile, and I'm really here just to support Jim Tullio, because I really appreciate the opportunity he's given to my son and to other classmates of his. And I saw these kids go through the music program at ETHS, and then I saw a few of them join with Jim and saw him take time to help guide them, to help steer them, to help create with them. And the finished product, if you haven't listened to some of it, is really incredible. And I encourage you to go to the website and listen to some of this so you understand why so many people here are passionate. On top of that, I have to say I'm really proud that because of Jim, Ryan is in Boston studying, and he also was able to put out some music on Spotify that's been well received. But all of this is possible because of Jim. And I know that these guys are just a small example of, the number of kids at ETHS who probably have no idea this exists. And I suspect once they do find out, and once we're under normal conditions, whatever that will be, that students will start flocking over there with all kinds of music, wanting to take advantage of this. So I fully support it, and I hope the board will agree to grant him the variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thurile. Steve Johnson, you're up next.
Thank you very much. Going quickly, I've gotten to meet Pat Hughes, who I know has got a hand raised, also introduced me to Jim a little bit ago. And we know a lot of the same people. As you can see from my wall here, I grew up playing music, and I've recorded 6 or 7 of my own CDs around the city. And when you go walk into this place, you're not just walking into someone's basement recording studio. This has got some of the greatest equipment that I've been able to see, much less actually touch. And for students to be able to see that, that's a big deal. Fellow class of '86 graduate, Steve Gillis, who owns a baller recording studio in the city, is also well aware of this opportunity. And he and I have talked about, if we had this when we were in the music department and in the music programs at Evanston, what that could do. Both of my sons, I was big on the music program, supporting them and their work. Milo, having been in all of the bands with some of the guys that are here. My son Luca, who's friends with some of the guys that are on here. And Milo, being a musician, was like the idea of what he could have learned in a studio as a musician. Luca has engineered 3 CDs in our basement, and seeing what he would be able to learn from that. It's not just about the opportunity of the musicians. Somebody else here said about what kind of track people are taking. If STEM is important, music engineering, the STEM that you learn from that and how critical that is to be in a laboratory where you can actually dive neck deep into this kind of STEM work, opens up a lot of kids' eyes as to, oh, I didn't realize that was STEM. I didn't realize I could use math here and engineering and some of these other science pieces to go with the art. And for us to have that kind of a lab is huge. It's absolutely huge.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Luca Piatoni.
Hello, I'm Luca Piatoni. My address is 1114 Dobson Street, Evansville, Illinois. Also want to clarify, different Luca than what Mr. Johnson was referring to, his son. Also, yeah, I just want to say that Jim has been so selfless towards me and a lot of my friends, and he is such a great man for starting this program and doing this. And this is truly just the start of this program. He's only 2 years in. He's done 64 songs, and I really want to see him do so many more with kids like far past when I leave Evanston. And a lot of this stuff, it helps kids get into college. It helps build their portfolios. And like, this is a dream come true for musicians. Like, this is like as good as it gets for recording. Like, it's just like, this is a Grammy award winning producer. He has great gear. Like, and yeah, like, this is just a dream come true for kids. And I want to see this thing live on for many more years. And it would be a shame if after 2 years it already is just done. That would be terrible. So yeah.
Thank you for coming out and speaking. Next up, Pat Hughes.
All right, let's just say Luca Piatoni. That is the greatest name ever. Whatever you want, Luca, we want. All right. I just want to say, first of all of you give up your nights. I come onto this Zoom and you forget what goes on in the city sometimes of all the detail. So first of all, thank you all to the commissioners. As I hear, I've known Jim for 30 years and I love him just like everybody else. And I've recorded 3 songs. So if you all want to hear it sometime, I'll be happy to sing it for you. But just kidding. But I'm concerned about that. You clearly know we love Jim Tullio and this is providing a service to. There's a huge gap in the high school, not in the high school, but the high school can only handle so much they don't have access to this kind of equipment to be able to take kids to the next level like these kids are once they enter that space. My fear is that the conversation that we're all bringing to you is not the conversation that you commissioners really want to have. Your commissioners are talking about zoning and, lot sizes and stuff. And I guess I'm just begging you to not say no tonight based off of that and find a way to work with Jim. I would imagine that most people that come for variances bring an attorney, and they don't bring people gushing about the people. They bring an attorney and they do things in a different way. So I don't know. I'm just appealing to you all in a different way to say if you're thinking no, find a way to get to yes and figure this out with us, because Jim is a community gem. And I don't know, I just am worried about what you all are thinking as commissioners and the reality that you all work on. And that's my concern right now. And that's it. That's all I really want to say, other than thank you all for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. I'll just note for the record, Commissioner Halleck has joined us. I don't know at what point he came in, but I just saw him pop up on my screen. So for the record, he is here. And I'll go back to citizen comments. Seth Gates is the next speaker.
Hi, I'm Seth Gates. I'm at 714 Central Street in Evanston. And I just want to add on to everybody, what everyone has said, and just say that working with Jim has been quite an experience. And I've been trying to pursue a career in music, and he's given me really helpful advice and really good recording time. And I just beg of you to please make an exception for him, or at least work something out, because it would be a shame to see the studio fall, because there's just such a huge music community in Evanston, and it's really brought us together. So yeah.
Thank you. I see Beatrice Andrews, but Beatrice Andrews spoke and you don't look anything like her. So I'm guessing you're another member of the same household?
I am. I'm her father, Martin Andrews. And I'm the communications director at Inquire Ed, which is an inquiry-based learning company. And I came into interaction with Jim and his studio, and I thought it was the greatest example of inquiry-based learning that I've seen. because he has set up a space there for students that is like a laboratory. I've heard that word a couple times tonight. And what happens in that space is deep collaboration, and students are building those communication skills, those collaboration skills. And Jim and the other professionals he brings in are not there to tell students what to do. They're there as guides and facilitators. So it is a really strong example of inquiry-based learning happening that's just adding to what students are getting at ETHS and other high schools. It's the space itself that really supports that as well. I also want to encourage everyone to go to the website. Once I saw what he was doing, I came on board to help him out, helping him with the website. I'm donating to Butcher Boy because I believe in it so much. So if you go to butcherboy.org, you'll be able to see like pictures of the inside of the building. You'll be able to see testimonials from students at the bottom, so you can really gauge the impact of this program. So I really encourage you to find a way to make this happen and support this awesome program.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Soren's phone. If you could identify yourself, please.
Yeah, sorry, this is Soren Dorr. I live at 843 Judson. I'm currently working right now, but I really felt like I needed to take the time to say something. I met Jim about a year ago during, probably one of the hardest periods of, my young adult life, where I was in my senior year at high school, basically about to fail, was getting to the point where graduating was a challenge because of my lack of, motivation to really accomplish anything in the academic arena. It was very directionless, and I'd known I'd always wanted to, pursue a career in music. And about a year ago, I think my main goal or my main plan forward was, oh, maybe I'll go on a cruise ship and play bass.
Gotta unmute, bud.
When did I cut out?
You were on a cruise ship playing bass.
Yes. And then I met Jim, and he gave me this incredible opportunity and this path forward. I'm now his unpaid intern, which is maybe has been like the most interesting 6 months of my life. Have really learned just leaps and bounds, at a rate that just doesn't make any sense. It's nuts. And his program was really special and important to me, and it's something I'll and will continue to support. The other thing I want to say is we didn't want to sell the lot. This was our kind of last resort. We liked the lot, but it's come to a point financially where it's the only solution to keeping the building. And so I just want you to understand that. Thank you.
Oh, Chair Rogers, think you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I was selling someone else thought I thought they were muted. Seamus Noonan is the last hand I see up. So if you'd like to go ahead and speak.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Seamus Noonan. I'm a senior at ETHS, and I live at 2409 Simpson Street. And you'll have to forgive me. I have to be quick, but I wanted to come in support of Jim and the program because I am one of the many students who have benefited from working with him, and that experience has been truly life-changing. And I think from what everybody else has said in this meeting, I don't really have to explain to you why it's been so incredible. I just wanted to say that the decisions that the commission is making today is for the future of the city and for the community. And I believe that Butcher Boy Studios and the program is too valuable of a resource to sacrifice. If we're making the decision for the benefit of the future of the city, then I think the city would benefit more from maintaining the studio and the program than from getting rid of it as a result of the lot issues. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That is all the hands I see raised. Have I missed anybody? If so, just tell me right now. I see no additional hands and hear nothing from anybody. So with that, I will turn the floor back over to Mr. Tullio. And I just have one quick question for you, which I didn't raise before. I've noticed there's a fire pit on the property that would be on the property line, and you are aware that would have to be removed because it would be too close to the property line based on standards. You're muted still, sir.
What is the distance, may I?
I believe it has to be 10 feet.
Okay.
Staff can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe it's 10 feet when I looked it up today. That's my big concern with
Well,
that.
that would be easy.
That I just wanted to make you aware of that. So all of a sudden, if it comes up, you're not like, oh, I didn't know that. With that, I'll go ahead and ask you if you'd like to make a closing statement before we go into deliberation.
Yeah. Really, the only thing I would like to add is I've done some research, and there's truly no other high school music production program like this in the country. I mean, this is college level and beyond. And even I think my program, from what I've seen and in my experience, I taught at Columbia College for 17 years, and they didn't have a facility as good as this, and most colleges don't. And you know, I've been doing this for over 50 years now, so I have a lot of experience, and I just think it's been a highly successful program. I just think it's been great. And like you've heard the kids, and there's many more kids that couldn't make it tonight that probably would have spoke. But anyway, that's basically.
Thank you. Commissioner Hugo, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you don't mind, I'd like just one follow-up question for Mr. Tullio. Just hypothetically, if you were to get these variations and you were then to sell the property, what's this mean in terms of you maintaining your operations? 10 years, 5 years, 2 years? I mean,
well, here,
the part of your argument is really about the importance of the program you do, which I applaud and it's outstanding. What's this going to mean as a practical matter for you to be able to continue doing what you're doing if you were able to sell that?
Okay, let me explain the situation. So when I built this place, when I started in 2006, I ran into a little bit of trouble then, and I have a very good friend who will remain nameless, who is a private benefactor to me. And he gave me a private mortgage, which afforded me to do what I did here. And at the time, when you get a private mortgage, they have to charge you interest, and the least amount of interest they can charge you is the bank-to-bank rate at the time. So at the time, it was very, very low, and it was locked in for 9 years. So about 3 years ago, that 9 years was up, and my interest rate quadrupled. So I've been really struggling to pay the mortgage. Anyway, the same private benefactor had told me, look, when he gave me the private mortgage, he wasn't taxed on that money. So he called me last summer and said, my nickname's Tools. So he said, Tools, if you can get a variance to sell the lot, that would cover the tax on the property, and I will donate the building to the nonprofit. So then the nonprofit, the building would be in the nonprofit's name. And my intention is when I retire, which won't be anytime soon, I'm going to keep this program going. And this building will always be in the nonprofit name. So when I go, the program will stay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions from commissioners before Chair Lind, or Chair, I'm so used to calling you Chair, Commissioner Lindwall?
Hi, actually, your explanation just raises another question. Who's paying the property taxes now? You or your benefactor? And what's the status on that?
I am paying the property taxes. I pay everything here.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Cates, do you have a quick comment?
I wanted to just very, very quickly say that this is sort of germane to what I was saying earlier. I'm an experienced 30-year fundraiser, and if we had had a 5-year runway to raise the money to avoid this situation, we would have, but we don't have that. So that's sort of the issue with selling the property, is that we will replace any revenue needed to keep the nonprofit going through very careful, very smart fundraising and growth over the coming years. It's this initial burden we have to get over first.
Thank you. With seeing no more hands, I am going to close the record so that the board can begin its deliberation. I will just start by saying that Mr. Hughes sort of touched on this, that I don't think any of us are arguing about the benefits of the program or the value that it brings to the city of Evanston. But some of the things that we have to look at are related to more specific standards. There's legal standards that we must find are met. And I'm not saying that we're going to approve or disapprove this particular project. I just want to make that statement up front so that everybody who came and spoke this evening knows that during the discussion, we probably won't talk a lot about what you have talked about, because that's not really what we're looking at. We appreciate everyone coming out and explaining to us how important this program is, but we have a set of 7 standards that we must go through and find those to be met in order to approve something. And that's the legal standard that we must adhere to. So I just want to put that out there before we begin talking, so that as you hear discussion among commissioners, you don't think we're ignoring what you've said or are negating in any way what you've said, but we're going to be talking about some different issues. So with that, I will open it up to any of the commissioners who have comments that they would like to make about this particular project. Commissioner Hugo?
It's really more, Mr. Chairman, a question for legal counsel. Do we have even the ability formally to look beyond those 7 standards and bring in issues like were discussed by the various speakers earlier? Or are we really, is there any wiggle room to consider factors other than those 7 standards as outlined in the staff memo?
You're supposed to take into account the 7 standards.
To the exclusion
that's
of extraneous.
That's the standard.
Okay, so we have very little wiggle room, basically.
We must find those standards are met. Now, how we weigh those individual standards and the importance of what we bring into those standards and our interpretation of those standards is very much up to us as commissioners, but we must find those 7 standards are met in order to approve this project.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lindwall.
Thank you. First, I have a question for staff. Yeah, I was looking at the proposed plat of subdivision and then all the signatures that are needed. Now, I understand from this that we're the determining body for this, but then one of the things that has to be approved is the city council approval of the plat of subdivision. So is that, what's the sequence? If we, if we were to approve this, would this still go to the city council as kind of a ministerial function, or how does that work? And then I also see that both the county clerk and the chief financial officer of the city have to certify that all the property taxes are current.
Yes, Commissioner Lindwall. So the Land Use Commission would be making a determination on the relief from the lot size requirements.
Okay.
And then to your point, as a more of a ministerial role, the city council would then approve by resolution the plat of subdivision. So hypothetically, if this lot, it were 10,000 square feet and he were creating two 5,000 square foot lots, it would still go to council as a resolution. But that's really the main function that it's more of an acknowledgement that the lot's being split. And you're also correct with the certifications as well for the purpose of those.
Okay, thank you. My other just point of discussion is that given the value of this program, based on what the speakers have said in the testimony, this seems to be something that maybe the applicant may want to pursue a request for ARPA funds, as a way to bridge the economic gap that is facing, rather than subdividing and trying to sell a lot for which there may or may not be a ready market. So that's, irregardless of what the Land Use Commission determines, that may be something that I would encourage the applicant and his supporters to pursue.
Thank you, Commissioner Lindwall. Commissioner Zordan.
Thank you. My question kind of builds off of Commissioner Hughes' question. I understand the requirement to base our decisions on the standards, but looking at the major variation application that Mr. Tullio completed, page 4 of 6, point 3 references the purpose of the variation is not exclusively upon a desire to extract income, and then it goes on to talk about public benefits. Could I just have clarification from the city on if we are allowed to take into account that section 3B?
So that is something I did kind of explain to Mr. Tullio. Public benefit, I think, is definitely a more subjective approach and a policy approach from the city. Obviously, he's made clear that part of the purpose for selling the lot is such that he could sell the lot, gain the monies from that, and then property taxes would ultimately be lowered once he's no longer in ownership of that. So I think that I'd be interested to hear Assistant City Attorney Brian George on this, because this is a little bit of a push point, I think, within the code, and it is something that's in state statute as well.
Can you repeat the question just so I know? I was the question is whether the testimony regarding the studio would fall under the is something that could be considered a public benefit?
Well, no, not exactly, but just that our 7 standards for review are quite clear, but then I
Right.
see this question on the major variation application as adding another dimension. And I'm asking if that other dimension can be considered in when we're considering our standards.
Good question.
Or in another way, why would you ask this question if this is not
Right,
something that we
right,
could
right.
consider?
You know, unfortunately, I can't really give a definitive answer on that. All I can say is that the commissioners can consider the testimony today and the comments today in making their decision as to whether the variations or the application meets the standards. I know that's more like a general sort of comment, but I don't really want to instruct the commissioners on how exactly they should take the testimony and comments they heard today and what their thinking should be when arriving at their decision.
Sure. Okay.
Commissioner Jordan, I think that zoning administrator Klotz's points in the memo regarding whether or not the land use commission feels that the creation of a new lot in and of itself for the possibility of a new construction home on a smaller lot that in theory economically would be more affordable for others to possibly purchase and buy, where the housing market in Evanston otherwise has more expensive homes. That could be something that this body could consider as a public benefit as well. However, to Attorney George's point, that isn't necessarily something that was provided during the testimony this evening, but it was in the staff report.
Thank you.
Do any other commissioners have any comments, input that they'd like to provide?
Well, I would like to say that I feel like this program has got to be important. It's got kids away from the screens and coming to testify at a public hearing, and we hardly ever hear of that. However, I do want to talk for a minute, Matt or one of the staff, about the land use issues, about the variance that they're asking for. It seems to me like it could be entertained. Is there any staff objection to it? I didn't see any in the packet.
So I'll just speak briefly to that. So my understanding is that the zoning administrator saw to approve this, but when it went to Dapper, it was not met with approval. So we sort of have contradictory opinions. The zoning administrator providing one and the members of Dapper providing another. So it really is kind of up to us to weigh the issues before us and decide whether we think these standards are met. And if they are, approve it, or if they are not, do one of two things: either find a way to put conditions on the property to make the standard met, or to deny the property. So those are kind of 3 options that we have here. Commissioner Puctel.
Thank you, Chair Rogers. I imagine I'm feeling similar feelings to the rest of the commissioners, which is that we're probably moved by a lot of the testimony tonight, and we certainly recognize the immense value that this program is providing to the community. And we also feel stuck between kind of between a rock and a hard place, between our responsibility as commissioners here to do what's right with our roles here. And I'm struggling to try to figure out, you know, how can we get to yes and do it in a correct manner. And so I'm thinking through, like, what are the options, and what are the things that we can preserve, and what is important. Personally, I'm not in favor of creating an interior lot going forward that is non-compliant zoning wise. So I recognize that the original proposal was to have the corner lot be the 5,000 square feet and the interior lot be substandard. I'd be interested in a solution that would see the interior lot actually be fully compliant by having that be the 5,000 square foot area, and also potentially giving it full access to the driveway on the south side, which we haven't really actually talked about quite yet. If that could happen and it would avoid any curb cuts to the north, then I think I could find a way to interpret the standards in a positive light, such that the interior space would be compliant. And then we would also tack on a condition to the corner lot, in keeping with what the zoning administrator suggested on page 2 of 6, to not allow any future rebuild statuses that is non-compliant. So I'm very much interested in trying to find a way to yes, and those are the things that are important to me. And I'd be happy to make, once we get to that point, to make a proposal along those lines.
So I'll just jump in real quickly and say here, I had a lengthy discussion with the zoning administrator this afternoon, because I had similar feelings to you, that I would rather that we make the new lot that we are creating as compliant as possible, and affect the existing building more so than the future empty lot that would be built upon. The problem with doing so is that would require a renotice according to the law department, because we are changing which conditions and which variance requests are being made, which is something that we can request staff to renotice it, with that being the condition that the applicant has come trying to make as few variance requests as possible. I don't know if they're the right variance requests, is the thing. I would almost rather see one more variance request as opposed to having the fewest number but not creating a better situation. I would rather see one more variance request in place and have the lots be better situated for what we think the city should be doing with those, what the city would like to see done with those lots. So I think I'm speaking correctly. I don't know if Director Knighton or the city attorney or Ms. Ashbaugh or someone from staff wants to speak to that, but it seems like if we want to go down that path, it's something we can do, but it would require a renotice. Which means that we would have to place a continuance on this particular matter. But if that's a path that commissioners see as being more acceptable, then I would prefer we go that route, as opposed to just denying something outright because we don't feel it's quite right.
Matt, I actually agree. I think we should renotice, and I think we should add that extra variance, add that to it. I agree with you, and I feel like we should be able to do this unless there's a time deadline on this proposal.
Chair Rogers, if I may speak to that.
Yes.
So if we were to renotice, I guess first we would need to get the consent, of course, of Mr. Tullio, so he can be the applicant for that, and make sure that that's something that he would like to, that's how he would like to split the property, given that when he did move forward with a similar request, I think over a decade ago, he did have numerous variations requested to perform this lot split, and he was denied. And then he even went forward and appealed that denial in appellate court, and it was dismissed. So I just would like to make that note. We can certainly, and then as staff, we can explore fewer variations as well and see what that would create. But I guess just to provide some additional history with not just the property, but this specific applicant. It was in 2006 that it was denied.
Thank you. Commissioner Lindwall?
Yeah, I have a real problem with intentionally creating substandard lots. So and especially, and I'm also troubled by the necessity for the cross-access agreement and some of the other, really machinations that would have to be in place in order to make this this work. I would note that while the house to the east is also a substandard lot, it's still, it's 4,600 square feet as opposed to the 4,200 square feet that's proposed for this subdivided lot. So it's smaller yet. So I think that the program sounds like a wonderful thing, and I'd like to see it continue, but I don't think that the zoning variations are, I don't think that's a rationale for making that approval. So that's kind of where I'm coming down. Either way.
All right. I guess I'd like to take just kind of a quick little straw poll for commissioners who are there or who are here and sort of get a feel for if this is something that we feel we can move forward with under any condition, or it sounds like Commissioner Lindwall is kind of leaning in the direction of a not being able to support this regardless of how we divide these lots.
That's
and so I just kind of want to get a general feeling, because if there are enough commissioners who feel one way or the other, that will direct kind of how we move. I've noticed Commissioner Westerberg has unmuted herself, so I'll ask her if she wanted to speak.
I, like the others, I think this is a terrific program and would love to see it stay. I guess my concern and my question for staff is, what does this mean down the road when you do create these variances? And you may have to make adjustments later. It seems to me a bit that you're almost just kicking the can down the road. You're trying to make a variation at one point in time that could come back later and cause some problems. There's a problem with that driveway and how that would be accessed by both property owners should you subdivide it. There's concerns about storm detention, things like that. All of these things could be addressed, but I think my question for staff is, have you run into this situation before where creating a variance like this can actually cause problems with either the neighborhood or the community or future developments?
So I think, to speak first, there's a lot of properties, even if those are much closer to compliance with the minimum lot size, can still have issues depending on the makeup of the block and what's been divided and subdivided in the past. I do think that if this were to go forward as it's been presented, that adding the conditions of approval as suggested by zoning administrator Klotz, that can be something that the city can stand on to prevent any future relief being granted that there would not be necessarily a hardship or unique circumstance. However, minimum lot sizes in and of themselves can also just be challenging. The city of Evanston has many non-conforming lots, and that's why there's several minor variations. So in effect, how the lot sizes in the community, as we revisit the rewriting of the zoning code, is it worth evaluating what these minimum lot sizes are in certain districts, and then make some of these lots then conforming. So that's something to look into. I think, unfortunately, this property is just it's a case study of what these types of standards can cause and create in the community. However, the CARP goals, as was mentioned at the Design and Project Review Committee meeting with regard to impervious surface and flooding, those are all valid concerns as well. And the city is aware of and does recommend often best practices with stormwater management that could possibly mitigate those issues on this specific new lot, and also prevent, if this property were redeveloped, kind of address those as well. And technology with stormwater it's just continuing to evolve. I don't know if that spoke to your question enough, but hopefully that provided some insight.
Commissioner Miranchev.
Thank you. I will go with the option that was suggested by Commissioner Puchtel. I apologize if I don't pronounce it correctly. I usually call him Max. Because for me, and I mentioned this in the first part of our meeting, I believe the zoning administrator showed some willingness to approve or to suggest a solution with creating the new lot, the new interior lot, to be absolutely compliant, which means 5,000 square feet, and to leave the corner lot non-compliant. And the answer from the city staff is also true, that probably this will create other, maybe serious requests for variances. But still, I believe it is in the, it will help actually the applicant if we can compare, let's call it this way, two solutions. One with a corner lot that is non-compliant, and with a new interior lot that is fully compliant and the currently presented. I know that this will be a burden for the applicant to create a second option. But on the other hand, if, let's say, in the case that we approve this non-compliant interior lot, who will buy it? Knowing that this will bring so many troubles for any future buyer. So as suggested by the chair, maybe it's good to continue exploring options for this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Hugo.
It's really to follow up on what Commissioner Mirinchev just alluded to at the end. If we were to, even if we were to approve the current subdivision as requested, can you build a compliant home on that lot without asking for variations? Is it possible, even theoretically, to build a compliant home with no variations on that lot?
It would be possible to build a home there.
Okay. So
you know, especially, I mean,
that's compliant.
We've now approved that you can build on, you know, a 3,000 square foot lot with our new efficiency home. But in terms of this, it's a 92, roughly, I'm just going to round off, 92 foot depth lot. The front yard and rear yard setbacks would total about 57 feet. So I'm not good at math, but 92 minus 57 leaves you something that would be about 30 some feet deep for the house. And then you could go from, I believe it's 5 feet from each of the lot lines, which if it's proposed at 45, that's 35. So you could build roughly a 35 by 32 footprint on the lot and be in compliance.
And sort out your driveway issue.
The driveway issue, that becomes an impervious surface, and I'm not able to do that real quickly off the top of my head. But yes. Commissioner Zordan.
Two questions. One, to Mr. Miranchev's point, is that an option that we would have two proposals from the same applicant and be able to consider each?
I don't think that that's what I'm proposing. I think what I'm talking about is I get a sense from some of the commissioners that this proposal is not preferred. That we would like to see more of the new lot come closer to being compliant than the old lot.
Completely understand. I think if if I'm not saying what Mr. Miranchev said, then I apologize. That is what I understood Commissioner Miranchev is suggesting, to have two options. One, flipping, which is the 5,000 square foot lot, so that we would have two to consider, but perhaps I misunderstood that.
Just in looking at the properties, I don't know that we can get that interior lot to 5,000 without having to remove patios and things like that, which I'm not saying that we couldn't ask an applicant to do. But it just becomes a bigger thing to switch the two properties. I mean, my personal preference would be to split the lot down the middle roughly and end up with roughly two 4,610 square feet properties, as opposed to one 5,000 and one, 4,100 or whatever, 4,200, whatever we were coming in at.
Gotcha.
Making them both a little more in compliant, being 400 square feet off instead of 800 square feet off.
Gotcha.
But that's my personal preference. So I'm not speaking for any other commissioner when I say that.
Sure. Other question is to the city staff. Are we aware of flooding or groundwater issues in this area?
I personally am not, and it was not raised at the Design and Project Review Committee.
Okay, thank you.
I'll offer there are concerns from our Public Works Department. I mean, there's concerns across the board. This was identified in the Climate Action Resiliency Plan, diverting stormwater. Whenever we do review projects at DAPR, you may have noticed from the notes, the Public Works staff, the engineering staff is very concerned with where the stormwater will be going on any project, even small additions, garages. They're very concerned that those aren't directed on the public way. Our city has spent lots and lots of money over many decades on stormwater management, and many of us enjoy unflooded basements because of that work. So I think they're very, very mindful of that, and their diligence means we have that good infrastructure. So I think that's where those concerns are generally coming from.
Thank you.
So I guess I'm going to ask, I haven't heard from Commissioner Halleck or Commissioner Johnson if they have any thoughts on kind of what their feelings are on this particular.
For me, I came late, so I apologize and I missed part of the conversation, but I'd like to see something to do something. There's been several options thrown out there, something that is palatable to all the commissioners to make this happen. I'd like to hear from the applicant though on some of these ideas, whether they're even options.
And I'll get to that in a minute. I kind of want to, since we have a closed record right now, I want to get the commissioners, and then we'll open the record back up and have a discussion with the applicant on that. So Commissioner Johnson, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm largely of the same thinking as what Commissioner Lindwall expressed a couple minutes ago. And I also have additional concerns about the potential for flooding, the impervious surface coverage exceeding the allowed amount, and just the city's broader efforts to mitigate flooding, which is relatively common in parts of the city, as well as the general overall climate action plan. So those are my thoughts at this time.
All right, thank you. Any other commissioner have anything else they want to add right now before I open the record back up? Commissioner Puctel?
I'll wait actually.
All right. At this point, I'll open up the record so that we can have a discussion with the applicant. This isn't for citizens who showed up to speak, but I'd like the commission to have and staff to have a discussion with Mr. Tullio. He's kind of heard some of the concerns we have and what we're sort of thinking on this project. I just kind of want to get his feedback on it. So Mr. Tullio, this is a chance you can ask questions to specific commissioners. We can have a little bit of a dialogue here. But I kind of want to get your thoughts on it.
Well, I'm willing to work with you. I think your idea of splitting it in half is a good idea. The only thing that concerns me is I'd have to get another subdivision plat, I assume. It's really expensive, but I'd be willing to do it. I want you all to know that initially I did intend to make the empty lot 5,000 square feet. That was my intention. But the planning office suggested I don't do that. So I just followed their lead. But I thought I could live with a small strip of land on the side. You know, like Soren had said earlier, I love the lot. You know, I'd love to keep it. It's just not possible right now. And then I want to address the drainage thing. I mean, as you had mentioned, you know, the backyard is long. And you know, if there's a house built there, there's still going to be a lot of green, you know, for drainage. It's not going to be, that whole lot's not going to be covered. And I've been here 16 years, never had any water built up, never had flooding. I have a basement. I can't speak for everyone on the block, but I never had. And maybe that's because I had the lot. I don't know. But basically, I'm willing to work with your suggestions.
So I guess at this particular moment, rather than making a decision this evening, I will ask if there is a motion to continue this so that a discussion can be had between Mr. Tullio and staff about taking into account the things that they have heard this evening. If they come up with a different plan that then could be noticed and returned to the commission to review, basically now that they've heard our concerns. And so that's what I'll ask for at this point, is if there's a continuance request from staff, from the commission, and then if staff can give us an idea as to how long that would take so that we can continue to a date certain. So I guess, Ms. Ashbaugh, I'm going to look to you real quick first. I know we need our 2-week notice for the property, but then how much time do you need to build in for that as well?
So the deadline for publication to be considered at the February 9th Land Use Commission meeting, I would need to get that to the Tribune by this Friday for publication on January 20th for the January 9th or the February 9th meeting. However, we would need probably a little bit more time to figure out exactly what the new variations would be. So it's likely that the 23rd of February would be more realistic to give us time to address those concerns and figure out what the zoning relief is. And then have Mr. Tullio update his application form. I'm not quite sure how quickly the surveyor he was working with could turn around a revised plat. However, given that they've already got the file, I would hope that just moving a lot line over would assist with that. And then we can just, you know, we know the existing conditions of the lot. We can just adjust the calculations accordingly for impervious surface and such.
So hearing that, Mr. Tullio, that means that you probably would not be back before this board before February 23rd. Is that an acceptable timeline for you?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Patel, you've raised your hand.
I'd like to make.
Wait a second, Bila. I'm going to call on Max real quick, who's raised his hand and see.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy with that course of action. I just want to ensure that it's successful and that it doesn't come back to this group in a form that we still don't like. So I think it'd be helpful if we accompany this instruction with perhaps a vote or a consensus from this group about what we want to see. Or like, right, for example, like solutions that include XYZ, solutions that include this. Personally, I would propose that we want to see solutions that create a fully compliant interior lot. And I'm curious if people agree.
I'll just speak to that real quick and say, I don't think we can get to that fully compliant lot because of the fact that the lot's only 92.25 deep. So I'm just going to do a quick math here. I guess that would be a 54 foot. Now, I don't know exactly. I couldn't determine where that patio sat on the side. So if we move that over, we're throwing the building on the west more out of compliance, but making a compliant lot. So we're just switching the two.
Yes. Yes.
So that's a possibility. I think I'm more comfortable saying we would like to make that interior lot as large as we can and as close to compliance as possible, without knowing exactly how close that property sits on the line, because unfortunately we have measurements for the property, but not for, or I'm sorry, for the building, for the structure, but not for the patio that's included as well.
I'm okay with that. As close to compliant as possible, is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the way I would word it. So that, you know, depending on the situation on the ground, it may need to move. I don't want to force it and say it has to be a 5,000 square foot lot. If they can get to 4,700 or 4,800, that's putting it a lot closer. That's throwing the other lot more out of compliance. But the thing that's kind of interesting about this is that the particular building that stands there, I mean, we've heard the history of it, which was it was a grocery store at one time, et cetera, et cetera. This isn't a typical building that you would find in a residential district anyway. It's something you would find more in a B1, B2 district probably. So there's a little bit of weirdness going on here anyway, because when we did when we created the zoning ordinance, we sort of shoehorned everything in based on general look and feel of the neighborhood without it necessarily being 100% in compliance to start with. So Commissioner Cullen, if you want to make a motion to continue this until our February 23rd meeting, with that condition that we try to make the interior lot as close to compliant as possible.
I will make a motion to continue this item until February 23rd meeting with the condition that we make the interior lot as close to compliant as possible.
Chair Rogers?
Yeah.
Yeah. May I ask for some additional direction from the commission regarding access on Washington and the easement to the south?
Let me get a second on the continuance, and then we'll have a bunch of discussion about what sorts of things people would most like to see or questions you may have. So is there a second? Is there a second for the continuance until February 23rd?
Second.
Been seconded by, so it's been moved by Commissioner Cullen and seconded by Commissioner Puctel. Further discussion, and this is where I'm going to ask staff to weigh in, or if commissioners have something in particular that they feel heavily that needs to be done. And we'll try to come up with something that can be, you know, have a vote on for the 23rd. Ms. Ashbaugh? You muted. Oh, there you go.
I just, staff, it had been discussed at the Design and Project Review Committee as well as internally regarding access, because there's not an active alley on that block provide access to the potential interior lot. So I had heard I can't remember which commissioner mentioned it regarding a possible curb cut on Washington, but then there were other concerns about the easement. However, if there is an easement, there may be an issue with providing enough width for vehicular passage through and allowing a compliant parking space on the improved corner lot. So if there's any opinions or thoughts with that, so we can have Mr. Tooley update his subdivision plat appropriately.
Sure. Commissioner Lindwall.
Yes, I would think that with respect to the whether or not a curb cut would be allowed on Washington Street, I would like some information from staff as to what impact that would have on that block in terms of traffic. Frankly, you know, I know we don't want to have more curb cuts than necessary, but that would certainly help alleviate the potential cross-access issue. The second thing is you mentioned that this, you know, what, in 2006, there had been a previous attempt to subdivide this property. And I think it would be very helpful for us to have a summary or some information on that discussion, you know, what was being proposed, whether, you know, so that we have that as background information. Those are my two pieces that I would like to see.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else that commissioners would like to see? Commissioner Patel?
Yeah, on the access, I just like staff to consider when they're looking through options, the possibility of not an easement for the driveway, but to give it entirely to the interior lot. Personally, I think we're doing a lot of work here to like find a way to yes, and that might cause some sacrifices. And if the corner lot loses parking, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to accept.
Okay, Commissioner Hugo, I think I saw you raise your.
Yeah, I'm just still struggling with, again, like everyone, I want to try to get to yes, but whether we split it down the middle, having lot 2 now be as conforming as possible, how many of these 7 standards are still going to be met? I would argue almost none. Those issues, the standards issue doesn't go away. The variation standards issue. How do we get around that? Regardless of how we wind up rejiggering the actual, you know, split down the middle or whatever, or am I missing the boat here? Or would it be, is there a way that, you know, 2, 3, 4, at least some of these standards are met through the rejiggering?
I think there are ways to make standards met that you know, you can work things out so that they are the best situation and come into compliance the best you can with these standards. You know, lots of these are not cut in stone, like definite hard answer. They are interpretations of questions. You know, it's not a black and white on any of our standards. It really becomes sort of a gray. And where I'm not saying we should make things up in order to make things comply, because I would never advocate for that, but something like having a substantial adverse impact on adjoining properties, that's a very subjective interpretation as to what does the term substantial mean, what does the term adverse mean, and how does that how do you interpret that based on the fact also that you're creating a new lot that can be developed as well, and the benefits that that is bringing. So there's a couple different ways that you can skin the cat, so to speak, in order to either place conditions so that standards are met, or to make them met through other things that are happening in the property at the same time. For example, one of the things is, you know, the zoning administrator had mentioned, you know, not allowing for zoning variations on that major zoning variations on the interior lot. And so that's just something that's an accepted means of preventing things from spiraling out of hand and creating more adverse problems in the future.
I think we're being honest. We're being very creative here, which is, you know, good. But you know, so I think in some of these they do seem to be pretty black and white. Some, you're right, could perhaps be, you know, different shades of gray. So, but okay, that was, thank you, appreciate that. Thank you.
If there's no other discussion on this, I will ask, and I don't know who's doing roll calls. If you're doing roll calls on individual, like if Ms. Ashbaugh is going to do the roll call, or if Ms. Jones, you're always my roll call person, or how we're going to do this.
I can do the roll call since.
Okay, so the question before the
Mhm.
question before the board is a continuance of this matter until our February 23rd meeting, with the conditions that we've discussed, which includes trying to make the building, or trying to make the two lots more in compliance, equally in compliance, and not just making one in compliance and throwing the other one totally out the window in terms of lot size. As well as the concerns that we've heard about the parking and the drive-through parking with the existing curb cut off of, and I'm totally drawing a blank now on what's the side street. Is that Asbury? Asbury. So that's the question that's before us right now, is whether to grant a continuance so those items can be explored. So with that, Ms. Jones, if you would call the roll, please.
Right, first, just for clarification, it would be February 26th. That would be the.
Oh, February 26th?
Yeah.
Okay, I was given the 23rd as the date, but it'll be February 26th.
Okay, with that, I will call the roll. Commissioner Cullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Renchev,
You're still muted, Commissioner.
I
There
see
you go.
my keyboard does not work, obviously. Sorry about, yes.
Commissioner Patel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
and Commissioner Zordan.
Yes.
With a vote of, I believe we're up to 10 now to 0. The continuance passes, and so we will ask staff to meet with Mr. Tullio and address the concerns that they've heard tonight, and come back to us on the 23rd with a newly noticed proposal.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that
26th.
our calendar does say the 23rd of February.
Correct.
So I don't have a calendar handy, but yes, I do.
The 23rd is a Wednesday. The 26th is a Saturday. I'm not doing Saturday meetings.
So it is the 23rd.
So it would be the 23rd, not the 26th.
Okay, my mistake. I think I was looking at January. My mistake.
Yes, you are still in January. So it'll be on February 23rd that we will hear this case again based on the discussion that we've had this evening. Mr. Tullio.
Yeah, I just want to ask, do you expect me to have a new plat by the 23rd? Or I'll wait for the decision and then we'll get a plat on what to do?
My personal preference is that we have a plat of survey that it shows existing conditions, and there's the plat for the subdivision. I don't know, and I'll ask staff and maybe attorneys. I'm perfectly fine with us seeing a plat that is drawn without all of the preliminary information for all the signatures and everything like that, that shows exactly what the width of the lot is, since that's what we would be approving. And then based on those widths, what would be the variances that would be needed as well. I'm fine with that, but I'll ask city staff if that's an unreasonable thing for me to ask for, and that we actually want to have a plat
That would
is
be great.
all ready to go.
That would be great.
Staff, anyone?
I would, Chair Rogers and Mr. Tullio, I think that the plat of subdivision in the draft form, I think you're correct that it can remain in its current form, and we, I'm capable of superimposing a lot line, just kind of redlining it and showing the proposed conditions. And then it could be a condition of approval that, you know, the draft be updated before it goes to the city council. So
Right.
that way he's not getting another plat all the way done and having that, you know, potentially not be approved. So it's still up for a vote.
My understanding is the plat would be attached to the ordinance as an exhibit. So that should be the final plat
Right.
with this correction. But I think for this body, as Ms. Ashbaugh noted, we can work on the draft, but the formal document that goes to city council would have to have the final.
Correct, correct. All right, so that wraps up that issue for this evening. Again, thank you to everyone who came out and spoke this evening on that issue. The next item on our agenda is communication, the comprehensive plan update. So I don't know if this is Director Nyden. Is this your baby?
This is my baby. So good evening again, Johanna Nyden, Community Development Director. So as I mentioned at the top of the meeting, the city is undertaking a request for proposals for the strategic/comprehensive plan. Our strategic plan is also quite old, a little bit younger than the comprehensive plan. So we're preparing a request for proposals, and we'll be issuing that very shortly. And hopefully we'll be getting lots of interest. I think we're a very attractive community to want to prepare a plan for, and expect a lot of interest in that. So that's forthcoming. As I mentioned, there's two pieces of this in my mind. If we're just talking about the comprehensive plan, there is the development of the plan, and then there is the implementation of the plan. And having been in Evans for a long time, both as staff and previously as a plan commissioner, I think it's the implementation in many ways is even more important than document preparation, because the implementation is the part where you keep the plan off the shelf and that you make sure that you're using it and that it's helpful in the day-to-day work. So that's really where we're at right now. I anticipate we will be giving you monthly updates once we kind of get going on this. If you have been paying attention to some of the things that were happening within the past year and a half, there was an environmental justice resolution that the city adopted that called for more robust community engagement and meaningful community engagement, particularly engaging people who are not generally part of processes and city activity. So we anticipate that being a high emphasis in this plan, finding ways to not just say we'll have no less than 3 community meetings and people come to the meeting, whether it's virtual or in person, depending on where we are in the pandemic, but that we really go to people in different populations and try to understand and ask the right questions in terms of helping to understand how we envision the next 15, 20 years of our community. So I'm happy to answer any questions. It's very, very much in the, we were approved for funding. The city has allocated funding in their budget for this year, $500,000 for this project. So that was a huge step in moving this forward. So we're in the very, very beginning parts of this. So I'm happy to answer any questions or, encourage any discussion among the members.
I've got a couple questions, Joanna. One is there an approximate date when these proposals will be due?
So we're going to issue
target date.
Yeah. So great question. So we're going to issue this at the end of the month. It's on schedule with purchasing to be issued at the end of this month. And then I would anticipate it would be about a month and change from that day. I don't know the exact date because they haven't given me all the deadlines yet, but probably a month or so from that date for that when they would be due. We would have a pre-proposal conference where potential consultants could ask us questions. To get more information.
And who would review these proposals?
So it's generally been for these kinds of proposals, it is staff generates a recommendation and then the city council would approve the contract.
Okay. And also there's fine planning firms in the area, but what is the city doing to reach out to national firms?
Thank you. That is a great question. So, because I just sent an email about that earlier today. We have asked. We have to put together a list of potential vendors. So people who have applied to this type of planning work. So we have that list. This goes on something called demands. I'm not in purchasing, so don't quote me on this. Demand Star. So they put together, it goes out and anybody who would have signed up for planning or development consulting would get this ping probably based on the keywords that get entered, is my understanding of how that software works. And So, but we also have a vendor list. So our vendors include local planning firms that we know of. And then I've also asked staff to go through firms that may have worked on the National Planning Association gives awards each year and recognizes different planning efforts. And those pull from all over the country. And even some of the smallest towns have some of the most amazing and beautiful plans that really look and feel like they've been tailor-made to those communities. So I've asked staff to pull those firms as well and make sure that they're on the list that have been part of award-winning plans. Because I think my goal, and you can quote me on this, is that I want this to be an award-winning plan. I want this to be a plan that there's going to be land use commissions and plan commissions all around the country saying, hey, have you looked at Evanston's comprehensive plan? It's really good. We should try to make ours like that. Because I don't want to keep saying, and the staff in community development and probably my colleagues across the city are really tired of me hearing, be like, have you looked at Minneapolis's plan? Have you, Megan's laughing. Have you looked at this plan? It's really great. Like, I want us to be the plan that communities come to and say, have you looked at this? And I want us to be getting the calls and the attention, because I think we deserve it. And we're doing a lot of really great things here.
That's great. Great. Thank you.
Are you going to be also listing it on the APA website?
Yes. Once that gets out, I will do that as well.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you. And feel free, if something comes up, if you have any questions, please email me. I think the idea is that we're going to have lots of different, as many voices that will guide this process as possible. So everybody on the Land Use Commission is invited to participate in all of these activities and help bring other colleagues along, other board committee commission members, because a lot of those, as you know, some of those board committee commissioners on different across the city develop smaller plans and other plans, CARP, multimodal, like those are all smaller standalone plans, and bringing these all together so we have one larger planning effort that knits all that work together and gives us the sort of the teeth that a comprehensive plan have will be really important. So thank you for the time. Matt, you're muted.
Thank you. Before I move on to public comment, Commissioner Halleck was late coming tonight and he missed our dividing up the committees. So I'll just make a comment to him that if there's a committee he would like to serve on, either zoning committee or the comprehensive plan committee, to let Ms. Jones know, and we'll put you on your committee.
I already did. I already did a month ago.
Okay. Okay. We didn't get that direction. So which committee do you want to be on?
I'd love to be on the comprehensive plan committee.
I don't see a problem with that being added on there. So with that, I will move on to public comment. I notice we still have a couple citizens with us. If they want to address the board on any matter before, whether it's before us or just on general land use in Evanston or anything, I just would ask that it not become a dissertation. But you feel free to make any comments at this point if you'd like to raise your hand and be recognized. Seeing nothing from them, I will move on to the last item, which is adjournment, and ask if there is oh, wait a second. Ms. McHugh has raised her hand. So Ms. McHugh, if you would please just identify yourself and feel free to speak then. And you're still on, there you go.
Yes, sorry for the delay. I didn't have anything prepared. I was just planning on listening, but since you gave me this opportunity, I wanted to address or mention a few of my concerns related to the comprehensive plan. It seems to me that we need to have that comprehensive plan finally cover what we are going to do regarding housing for Northwestern students and protection of the neighborhoods, both of those things. There isn't enough on-campus housing for the students, and what exactly are we going to do with where they live and how they integrate with our community to the benefit of all. In addition, I'm concerned that the city of Evanston is moving toward having really negligible parking or zero parking in these mega developments. And that seems to me to be discriminatory against people who are disabled, who really do need on-site parking. Thank you for your time.
Matt, you're muted.
Eventually, I'll get used to this. With that, then I will move on. Thank you, Ms. McHugh, for your comments, to adjournment, and ask if there is a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Moved by Zordan, second.
Second.
Was that Puxell that seconded? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. This one's just a voice vote, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries, and we are adjourned until, do we have a meeting at the second meeting of this month?
We
So
do.
Okay, so we're adjourned until our meeting on the 26th of this month.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you to everybody. These will run smoother. This one was kind of a long one, getting us all established and everything, but hopefully it'll move a little more smoothly after this. And I will see everybody on the 26th. Thanks.